we have two very special guests today. One of them will start right away. He's very nervous, so feel, cheering him. So his name is Wojtek Lasoda. He arrived from Poland, Warsaw, and he's a Korchak researcher. For many years, he just looks very young, but he's not that young as he looks. So believe me, he has been doing a lot of research in Korchak, about Korchak, on Korchak, and he's been part of several international projects. So we met first time face-to-face, I think 2 years ago in Warsaw at the conference. There was Korchak conference in 2017, right? And I thought, well, this guy speaks English, we need to invite him, because many did not. And then I thought, he doesn't only speak English, but he also can relate to Korchak in a way which I didn't know. So finally, Jerry Nussbaum, plays his magic. And Wojtek is here. Another person who I also want to introduce to you, another wonderful, more practitioner than researcher, but researcher for sure, who has been using Korchak in his classroom, Ira Pitaki, who is trained first as a lawyer, and that's a great combination, which actually Korchak never had. He never got training in law. Ira first was trained as a lawyer and then became a teacher. So the combination of being a teacher and a lawyer allowed him to start using youth courts in his school, in a small school, in public school in Pennsylvania. And you will hear what happened out of it and how wonderful it is to have a court in the school. If I say the word court and justice, does it make you feel uncomfortable? Like, what's your first feeling? No. Kind of. Alice?
Just like very serious feeling.
Okay. Claire?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So having my Russian background, I can tell you the word court and judge makes me feel like frozen that very second I hear it. The word police makes me feel like I need to run, like away. So the idea of justice and court is clearly very different in the West by itself. But what is different in Korchak's experience and why it is different, we will hear today from Wojtek, who will speak primarily about Korchak and how the youth court worked in the school, in his orphanage, but as you can imagine, you can use it in any other setting. And then we will listen to real practical experience from Ira. And in between, as usual, you can ask questions. Feel free to get chocolates for you not, just to feel not too excited. Secret here, lots of them, new ones. And without further ado, Wojtek.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he does have handouts.
Yeah, but not now.
So no problems. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very happy I'm here, and I can speak about Korchak. I'm always happy when I can speak about Korchak. The first question is, can you hear me? Without a mic, or should I use a mic, or?
Is there a mic?
It's okay?
Yeah?
Yes, there is.
Maybe
It's okay, yeah?
try the mic and
Okay.
see. It makes it clearer.
One, two, three.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, better? Okay. So I will use it. Okay, I'd like to tell you a story about the children's court in orphans' home led by Korchak. The photo here is probably the only one photo I know and we know which illustrates the work of the children's court. Could you recognize or are you able to recognize this lady in the middle? Yeah, exactly, thank you. That's Stefania Wilczyńska, Stefa, and children around her are in the middle of work. Children's court, maybe here. Children's court is rather, should be named Court of Peers. That's closer to Polish original. Here is the source of my quotations. It's the old translation because I hadn't access to the newest, and that translation is accessible on the website of the Janusz Korczak Association of Canada. So that's the great thing. But of course you can use text in your books. That's the first. Yeah, that's better. Court of Peers, and that's the assumption and conclusion at the same time. I love this sentence because for me, that's the, you know, in 100%, that's what Korczak, or it expresses Korczak's approach. The keynote, a child is as equally a valuable human being as we are. It's not the same that children are human beings or children are as an adults. No, it's much more. This assumption we can see this assumption at the beginning of the life path of Korczak. It's the end of 19th century. But he wrote this sentence, or rather it was published in 1939, so just before the Second World War. But the sentence is not the most important. The most important was how to implement that belief in daily life with more than 100 children. That's the challenge. And they did it. They really did it. And I'd like to show you how. However, to reset, it's true. I made research. I know about Korczak really pretty much, but to reset, I don't fully understand how was it possible, because it's something like magic, maybe it's something which would never to be explained fully. But first thing that Korczak primarily didn't work face to face. He was a director of an institution. So, sure. So his method, of course, must be like institutional methods. And that's why one day or 1 year maybe, I thought that it could be useful to show this activity as six areas of the social life in the orphan's home. And some methods were used in some areas. Information flow and some methods. About almost all of these methods you can read in How to Love a Child, the part Orphan's Home. Belongings. Positive reinforcements. Institution management, and you can see that plebiscite is bolded because I will tell you about plebiscite on Wednesday probably. And self-management and bets, and I will tell you about bets tomorrow. And finally, conflicts and court of peers. And now I like to use a metaphor. Do you like this picture? I like it very much because it's beautiful, but because it shows us two very important aspects of Korczak's approach. It was system something like system, which was, from the one side, like something biological, something evolutional, like plants. These methods were like plants. They grew up slowly. They need to take care of them. But from the other side, it was also like mechanism, something like watch, for example, because these methods were dependent each other and intertwined. Do you remember Gilles Julien's presentation on Friday? He also used wheels like this, and he used phrase chaotic harmony. It's a very good description also Korczak's approach. Okay, so let's go to the Court of Peers. Almost all picture I am using are originally from orphans' home, or there are pictures of people in orphans' home. Okay, they are human beings. They are equal. But among them, between them, were many conflicts. How to manage it? For Korczak, Court of Peers was extremely important. If you have this book, How to Love a Child, could you imagine that the whole book counts 80 pages? And please guess how many pages counts description of the Court of Peers? Do you have an idea? Excuse me?
100?
For 80? No.
No,
80.
inside this book.
Yes, inside, yeah. That's the part of this book. The whole book, 80 pages. Court of Peers, 50 pages. Yeah. That's more than half of the whole book. And that's why Korczak wrote, if I'm devoting a disproportionate amount of space to the court, and so on. That's why. And he wrote that it may become the nucleus of emancipation, pave the way to a constitution, make unavoidable the promulgation of the Declaration of Children's Rights. And it shows us that it wasn't only particular method in a particular institution, but that was an idea, general idea, for many purposes, for many institutions. And next, his assumption regarding the code of the Court of Peers. And once again, please guess missing words. If anyone has done something bad, it is best to what? Educate, thank you. Ask why. Mm-hmm. To forgive. Why? If it was because he did not know, he knows now. If he did it unintentionally, he will be more careful in the future. If he does something bad because he finds it hard to get used to, he will try. And that's the path, that's the way. And once again, to make it stronger, if anyone does something bad, it is best to forgive and wait until he is good. But the question is how to manage conflicts that way. It's extremely difficult. That's why he invented, in collaboration with children and other people, 109 paragraphs. 109 because between 1 and 100 they were one by one, and between 100 and 1000 by hundreds. 100, 200, 300, and so on. From 1 to 99, there were 99 paragraphs providing for dismissal, forgiving paragraphs of the charge or for a statement that the court did not try the case. 99 for 109. Only 10 paragraphs were punishing, but it's not true, not fully true. I'd like to give you an example. That's my example, not from the history of the orphans' home, because I'd like to show you how did it work. Please imagine the girl is Esther and the boy is David. And Esther pushed David, and David felt hurt and offended, but instead to beat her or something, he's very angry. But he's going to a bulletin board and he is writing a tiny piece of paper just with David sues Esther. That's all. That's all. This evening, educator is coming, for example, Stefania Wilczyńska, and she is taking from the bulletin board these tiny pieces of papers, and she writes it down into a special notebook. And now the next mystery. Please imagine and please guess how many these tiny pieces of papers, I mean how many cases, because this paper is one case. How many cases were in the orphan's home per a year in 20s? Because we know we have a source about 20s of the 20th century. So how many cases per a year in the orphan's home, in the Court of Appeals? 500, thank you. Who gives more? 1,000? Okay, who gives more? 2,000, yeah, thank you. Who gives more? 10,000. 10,000. You know what does it mean? It means that it was a real method, not abstraction. They really did it, yeah? It is average 200 cases per a week, average. Let's go. She, next day, she's going to them and to other conflicted persons, and she's completing testimonies, yes? What do you think? What do you think? What was the situation from your side, and sometimes also from witnesses? And next step, once a week, was a court session. But we need judges to court session rather. And that's why they chose randomly a group of judges, children, between 7 and 14. 4 or 5, because it's not clear. Also with an adult, with educator, but he or she was only a secretary without the right to vote. The decision was only, made by this group of judges. To be a judge, there was some criteria. The first is rather obvious. You cannot be accused. Yeah, it's obvious. The second, you have to be in the orphan's home more than 1 year. And the third, you have to be, I know the expression, sworn in by the parliament of the orphan's home, because there was also a parliament. 3 criteria. And what was the task? The task was to match a particular case with one of the paragraphs of the Code of the Court of Appeals. Each group of judges had 50 cases, no more. So you know that cases might be more, yes? So they needed in that case more group of judges, just more. What is very important, all people in the orphan's home could be sued, also adults. And also, you could also sue yourself if you feel that you did something wrong and you want to express it and tell the court, okay, I did something wrong. Is it clear for you? Yeah? So, I'd like to give you an opportunity to feel like judge in the Court of Peers. Please imagine that we know from the testimonies that it's true. Esther pushed David, but a previous week, he was offensive. He hurt her by the bad language and many similar things. If so, please tell me which paragraph from only this is the most appropriate in this case. How do you think? Thank you. That was also my idea, because it's my example, so it's easy to me. Yeah? Yes, but it's only an illustration. Yes, but that was the way of thinking, of doing things. Okay. Now I'd like to give you handouts, and please look through this for 3 minutes. Okay. Let's familiarize with paragraphs of the orphans of the Court of Peers. Okay, let's go further. Have you got this idea? Yeah? Because the idea was between 1 and 99 paragraph. To find the reason of conflict, not in a human being, not in a child, but somewhere external, yeah? In circumstances, in a bad mood, in a history of someone, but not in a person. And it was really amazing because yesterday we spoke with Jerry, we spoke with a young man from Rwanda. His name is Sam Mujiganeza, and he will be our presenter on Wednesday. I'm talking about him because he will tell you his story, but he has experiences of many similar way to conflict resolution. He experienced the idea not to be judged, but to be understood. And that was really amazing similarity between his experiences and the Court of Peers. But I hope we will see it on Wednesday. Let's go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that is an additional presentation, which would be like 10, 15 minutes. But since Jerry knows him and he is a student at UBC, we thought it would be a unique opportunity for you to meet with a person from Rwanda and ask questions and for him to talk.
It's something like surprise for you.
Not a surprise anymore, is it?
Yeah, you're right. And I'd like to explain one very important difference between courts for adults and children's court. In the courts of adults, I can be, innocent for 50 years, and now I don't know, I can be sentenced to something very, very strong, very hard. It was impossible in the Court of Peers. It was impossible to be expelled, because being expelled is paragraph 1000, as you know. It was impossible because of even very hard misbehavior. Because it wasn't only a conflict resolution method, it was also educational method, yes? To give them, to give children, to feel their freedom, their limits, to experience it, but at the same time to keep, order, just an order. And that's why the more cases you have, the probability of your of being expelled was rising. For example, and that's the part of the how to love a child. Probably it was a boy, probably, but probably yes. Went to charge of using bad language. 9 times paragraph 1. 9 times. But it did not help. So, 463.82. It did not help. So, 3 times 100, once 200, once 300. That's the mechanism, yeah? To push him to change his behavior. And I'd like to show you in a detailed way how that mechanism could really change behavior of children. That's the paragraph 100. That's the minimum punishment. It's really funny because could you see paragraph 800? We have no punishment, yes? And 100, it's the minimum punishment. But it's, that's the matter of complicated institution, probably. However, it's the minimum punishment, and that's all. 200. Just please do not it again. 300, not please. It's an order. 400. It's a last warning for you. Can you see it? It's rising. It's more stronger and stronger. So 500. The judgment with full name is to be published on the front page of the court gazette. So your misbehaviors will known, yes, in our society, and it's really it's something very uncomfortable. The next step, 600. Judgment be posted on the court bulletin board for 1 week and, like previously, published in the Gazette. And if you persistent wrongdoers, you can even deserve on your own personal graph or chart of your misbehaviors. What should be the next step? You know it, yes. It's a rhetorical question. But family, yeah? Because that's the moment in which being expelled is really probable. So everything what was under 600 paragraph, but the text of the judgment is sent to the family because it's fair, yes, to let them know. 800. It's really crazy for me because it's something, okay, we feel helpless. So maybe if you can do anything, maybe it helps, yeah? So you can bring no complaints, nor will the court hear any charges against him. Maybe that's the idea. And 900, very moving for me. The expelled may come back if he finds a guardian. And if so, the guardian is tried by the court for all offenses of his work. But it's a really last step. And 1,000 to be expelled, we expel. However, after 3 months, each child had the right to apply for readmission. As you can see, it's the mechanism really without punishments, only with from subtle to strong, but push someone to change his thinking, his behavior. As we know, in the whole history of the orphans' home, 30 years, because it's between 1912 and 1942. We don't know it for sure, but it's something like 4 or 5 times expelling someone. It's relatively low, yeah? And now I'd like to show you some real cases, to show you how sometimes strange was, the work of the Court of Peers. Please read it, and please think about the appropriate paragraph. To do it properly, you have to know all of them. You have to know the people, their situations, their habits, their history. That's why it's also not stiff paragraphs of the adults' courts. It's something fluent, flexible. So here it was paragraph 70. 70? It is, the court pardons since A has already been punished for what he did. Yes, the book is straight. Next. Yes, these photographs also are from the orphan's home. A boy climbed up a tree to show a friend that he could do it, but asked the court's judgment knowing that climbing is not allowed. That's the case I've mentioned to you, yes, to sue myself. Maybe a little advice, around 100, okay? Around 100.
This is called cheating.
Excuse me?
This is called cheating.
Paragraph 7.
Yeah, around 70, between 70 and 71.
No,
No,
it is 90. And it's very significant, I think. Yeah? Can you see it? I wanted so much, yes, I had to do it. But I know it's a crime, okay, please punish me. It's something like that. And the next case, and it's also, funny. It's around 10. Around 10. No more. Okay, let's go. It's a very, very fun and moving because the paragraph. Okay, maybe the question: What do you know about this situation? No, almost nothing. Yes, because it's an example of external using of the Court of Peers, not internal, not only in the circle of inhabitants of the orphan's home, but something between children and neighbors. So the paragraph was 3. It's a very funny paragraph. I don't know, so I can do it. And we know a very tasty anecdote about it. A boy did his math, and he really didn't know how to. He was very annoyed and he threw it out and he said, I'll give it to this paragraph number 3 because I don't know how to do it, yes? Okay, so probably one, yes, the last one. It shows us one very important thing. Could you imagine in so-called ordinary institution that situations like this, that we know about situations like this? Probably not, yes, because it's so, yeah, I feel so ashamed. And these institutions was very transparent, as you can see. However, the paragraph, it was around 200, I mean exactly 200. Yeah. So please do it again. Yes, please do it again. And yeah, and my conclusion, final conclusion. I understood one day that it was a unique mechanism or a unique approach because it wasn't directed towards the individuals and the past. It's not about you are guilty because in the past you did something, but it's something about circumstances and the future. How do you think? What is the reason? And what you can do with it in the future. That's why I think that's the very significant feature of this system, and that's why it was so powerful. That's all. Thank you very much.